Everyone, and happy wonderful new year. Thank you so much for joining all of us this afternoon. The time is 1:34 p.m. and I want to just put out a couple of reminders to everyone. First, please turn off your cell phone and limit any background noise if needed. And the second reminder is that the meeting will be ending a little bit early today. We'll be ending at 3 p.m. And so for the committee members that are on the call, please go to the Zoom link that has been provided earlier. So we're going to kick this off with the roll call. So I'll go first, and then after that, I'll just go down the list and name people as we go along. So my name is Whitney Hill. I am the CTA ADA Advisory Chair, as well as the chair of the Wayfinding Subcommittee. The organization I'm affiliated with is LCM Architects and Sport. And then a brief visual description about myself. I am an African-American female with short curly brown hair, wearing a black and red sweater with kind of a blurred out background behind me. So I'll kick it over to our next member, which will be our new member, Barbara Padilla, who I've had the pleasure of working with previously at LCM Architects. So Barbara, I'll kick it off to you. If you could please state your name, the organization that you're with, and then we'll just go from there.
Okay. Hi, my name is Barbara Padilla. I am with Whitney. We are both at LCM Architects. I'm an associate there. Part of the ADA program group. I'm also a licensed architect. I've been with LCM for 5.5 years. Prior to that, a practicing architect for over 25 years. Excited to be part of this group with the CTA and the accessibility. I do have a mobility issue, so that is kind of a personal thing. So really excited to be part of this group. I'm a sort of washed out blonde, if you will, wearing a green sweater and kind of horned rimmed glasses.
Thank you so much, Barbara. And once again, welcome. We greatly appreciate you being here with us. And I'm going to kick it off next to Cynthia.
Hi, this is Cindy Fasco. I am just a regular citizen, but I am legally blind and I use a guide dog. Sometimes a white cane, but I prefer my girl. And so, yeah, we're all over the city and thought it would be a good thing to be a part of this group. So thank you for having me and her. She's right here. Thank you for having us. And I am a petite blonde wearing a gray turtleneck sweater with a pair of jeans. Thanks so much. Look forward to the meeting.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Next, we'll kick it over to Sarah. Just making sure she might not be on the call yet. Okay, then we'll kick it over to Laura.
Hi, Laura Saltzman with Access Living, Transportation Policy Analyst.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said. Laura Saltzman, what?
Sorry, this is Laura Saltzman. I'm a Transportation Policy Analyst for Access Living, Metropolitan Chicago. I'm a white woman. I have my hair up and wearing glasses.
I'm sorry, I can't understand. You're mumbling a little bit.
Sorry.
I'm a white what? White woman?
White woman with my brown hair up, wearing glasses today. Yep. Happy to see y'all today.
Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you. Next, we'll have Mary.
Hi, this is Mary Abramson. I'm totally blind and I'm here representing myself and generally all people who are blind and visually impaired. I'm a smallish white female with brown hair and I'm wearing a purple shirt with a gray sweater, and I think it'll be a good day for us today.
Thank you so much, Mary. I certainly agree. I'll kick it over to Doreen.
Hi, this is Doreen Bogus from the Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities. I'm sitting in a desk at work. I'm in my our office, the Central West Community Center. I've got an olive green type sweater on. My hair is kind of like a dirty blondish brown, like, I don't know, multicolored, sort of trying to go gray. Anyway, it's pulled back in a ponytail with a headband, and yeah, that's it. Yeah, so welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doreen. Next, we have Robin.
Hi, this is Robin Jones, and I am the director of the Great Lakes ADA Center, and happy to be here today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Robin. And we have Michael.
Hi, this is Michael Kaiser, and I am an old white guy with gray hair, mostly gray hair. And I have two kids with disabilities, and one's a terminal illness. And I am an attorney who represents special education students who need services in schools, although I'm winding down because I'm 74.
Thank you so much, Michael. And we have Nicholas.
My name is Nicholas Robertson. I am wearing a light gray sweater with a red dress shirt underneath, and have accented that with a dark gray tie with light silver diamonds and darker gray diamonds, which are connected with thin white lines. I have a shaved head and dark brown eyes with a light brown goatee. I currently write contracts and have just started my own consulting company.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. And last, but certainly not least, we have Howard. I'm checking out, he may not be on the call at the moment. Okay, so thank you so much to the members. And next, I'm going to introduce the CTA facilitators. First, we're going to start with Irma.
Hi everyone, my name is Irma Gomez. I'm the ADA manager. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm a wheelchair user. I'm millennial, Latina. I have brown hair, brown eyes. I'm wearing a red blouse with a black cardigan. And I'm currently sitting in my office at the CTA headquarters.
Thank you so much, Irma. And next we have Michael.
Yeah, I'm Michael Connolly. I'm a baby boomer, well beyond my years. I should be retired by now, but I enjoy working with CTA and enjoy working with this committee. I'm in my office. I have brown hair, brown glasses, green eyes, and a white shirt in my office at 567 West Lake here. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Michael. And then we have Elsa.
Hello, my name is Elsa Gutierrez. I'm the VP of Scheduling and Service Planning. I have brown hair, shoulder length with glasses. I'm Latina and wearing a black and red sweater dress, and happy to be part of this group.
Thank you so much, Elsa. And next, it looks like we had a couple of absentees unless they joined, which was Sarah and Howard. We need 7 people present to represent a quorum, which I believe we have. I think we have 8. And so I just want to confirm if we have a quorum, which I believe we do. Okay, wonderful. So next we are going to go to announcements. I want to open up the floor to any members to see if there's anything significant on the horizon that might be disability related and upcoming that they would like to bring to the attention to everyone during this time. Yeah, do I see any hands? Okay, well, it's the start of a new year, so I'm pretty sure it's going to get busy for most of us pretty soon, but thank you all. And then next, we're going to go to the approval of October 11th, 2022 meeting minutes. The meeting minutes were sent to members prior to the meeting today for review. I want to open it up to everybody. Are there any changes to the minutes that you'll like to address right now? Okay, it looks like that is a no. So I would like to ask for a motion to approve the October 11th, 2022 meeting minutes. If you could please state your name.
Robertson, so move.
Thank you so much. And do I have a second?
This is Mary. I'll second that motion.
Thank you so much, Nicholas and Mary, for motioning to move. Okay, wonderful. And so next we have public comment. And I believe we might have one in. I'm going to pass it over to Irma, who will be able to lead us into that.
Thank you, Whitney. Yes, there was one public comment, and it came from Adam Ballard. And the comment states, the 5000 series cars in CTA Rail not kneeling is becoming a huge problem, and it is only getting worse. 4 out of 6 cars on a green line set just failed to kneel, and I almost missed the train. Thankfully, the operator was patient while I rolled all the way to the back pair of cars. The shortage of mechanics is having a snowball effect on access. So thank you, Adam, for your comment.
Thank you so much, Irma, for reading that. Thank you so much, Adam. Okay, wonderful. So it looks like we can start going into the main event, our presentation.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. This is Doreen from MOPD. And I was wondering if we could just, when people bring stuff to public comment, if I know this hasn't been the practice in the past, but if we could get any responses or, you know, in terms of, you know, if there's an issue noted, you know, what would be done to address the issue, or if there's an explanation of some sort, could that be part of the meetings as well?
Thank you, Doreen, for that. I'll open that up to Irma and to Michael.
Sure, and this is Michael Connolly from CTA. We'll follow up with rail maintenance and ask about this, and we'll follow up with Adam as well. I have his email and contact information, and know Adam very well. He was on this committee for several years. So I'll follow up and get the details, and then we'll follow up with the maintenance staff about the routine. It sounds like it was about some of the cars in the consist. 4 of the cars didn't kneel, but he said the operator then got him to the car that did kneel and did get him boarded. But we'll try to make sure what's going on with the maintenance, and then we'll make sure we report that out to the committee as a whole. We can put it on as an item for old business for the next meeting, or if we get something in the interim, we could mail something to the committee members there. I'll get Irma to pass that along to you all.
Great, thank you. Because yeah, it sounded like it wasn't an isolated incident. It sounded like it was in reference to the 5000 series cars, and if maintenance is going to look into seeing if that is an actual issue or glitch of some sort with any particular, you know, with those cars themselves, or if it's just kind of like a one-off thing that's been happening.
Mhm.
But, you know, then aside from that, I know that has not normally typically been the case, but to the committee itself, can we make that standard practice where whenever possible, if a response can be, you know, if even just an acknowledgement comment of, what their plan is to do for the next step for each comment that comes in like that.
I'm sorry,
This
who
is
was
Mike.
speaking just previously?
Yeah, this is Doreen still from MOPD.
Okay, I just need you, there's
And
multiple.
again, this wasn't my comment, but I've noticed that the public comment section, comments are made, but in terms of the protocol to go forward with public comments, I was wondering if, whenever possible, at the meeting at that time, we could be kind of given a response on what their plan is to address that comment. And I know he did indicate that they would do that in this instance, but right now I'm addressing the committee to see if this can be, the regular course of action.
This is Michael Kaiser, and I have been on more than one board. And I think it is not generally a good practice to give an immediate response because it might not be complete. It may not be accurate. We need to commit to following through on those comments and getting the information required and responding back to the individual who made the comments. But I think it is not good practice to try to respond on the spot.
Okay, this is Doreen again. What about to at least let us know at the next meeting that the comment was addressed and, taken care of? Or if what I'm getting at is if something happens to be, not an isolated incident or not just one,
Doreen,
not just an individual situation, can that information be reported back to us that if there's an issue?
Doreen, yes, and we hear you loud and clear.
I'm sorry,
We
who's
can
speaking?
definitely.
I
This
can't
is
see who's speaking.
This is Irma Gomez from CTA. Definitely, we will consider this and bring it back up in the next meeting, but because we are short on time, I'm gonna ask Whitney to move forward.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Doreen, for your inquiry, and thank you so much, Michael and Irma, for answering. So we're going to kick it over to the next part of our meeting today, which is the presentations. Before we get started, I want to just gently remind everybody that while they're presenting, before they speak, if they can just announce their name beforehand so that we can make sure that's properly recorded. And so looks like on the docket, the first meeting that we have, or the first presentation, is the Red Purple Modernization Project, RPM, and the updates, which will be presented by Jeff Wilson, Director of Community Relations for RPM. Thank you, Jeff, and the floor is all yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Jeffrey Wilson. I'm the Director of Government Community Relations for CTA, and I'm currently on the Red Purple Modernization Project. I am coming to you live from our customer service facing office, which is 5137 North Broadway. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm wearing a red and black and gray plaid shirt that looks like I've been hunting or cutting wood in the North Woods of Montana. I think it's kind of flattering though. And I've been at CTA for 22 years. I've been on this project for the last 5. And as a lot of you know already, the Red Purple Modernization Project is twofold. One is the Red Purple Bypass area, which is the area from Belmont north to just immediately south of Addison. And at that location, we are building we've already built the bypass itself, and now we are doing some track realignment on the North Main Line part, which is the area immediately north of the station, Belmont Station itself. The bypass that went into service a year ago is already carrying 3 million rides, has already carried 3 million rides. So we're quite pleased with that. There's not a lot to report this time around since I gave a full briefing at the last meeting, and we haven't had a lot to talk about since then, given the holidays, et cetera. But we are about to move into our Stage B area for the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr modernization section, which is north of the Red Purple Bypass area. And that is the area that has the 4 rebuilt stations that we're about to get active on, which is Lawrence, Argyle, Berwyn, and Bryn Mawr. And that is part of our stage. The actual station reconstruction part of that begins in July of this year, basically, and that's our stage B. What else do I have for you guys? Our temporary station in Bryn Mawr won an architecture award twice. Is that right, Patrice? So we had 2 wins with the temporary station architecture awards. And what else? We are representing the Lunar New Year this January 28th at Argyle, and we encourage everybody to come out and attend. CTA RPM team members will be there doing the mini train and representing the Red Purple Modernization Project. So I encourage you all to come out and meet our team. And if there are any questions or concerns about Red Purple Modernization, let me know. Whitney, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I just want to keep the floor open just for a few more seconds. If anyone has any questions they'd like to direct.
Or outfit comments, I'm open for that.
Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeff. And thank you so much
Thanks, everybody.
And thank you so much for the detailed report that you gave last time. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, everyone. Have a great day. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. Okay, wonderful. And then our next presenter, we have the All Stations Accessible Program, ASAP, and which is going to be presented by Stephen Masheri, Vice President of Capital Construction. And I'll open up the floor to Stephen.
Thank you, Whitney. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Stephen Masheri. I'm the Acting Vice President of Construction for CTA. I am wearing a navy button-down shirt. I have short brown hair and a very short beard, coming live to you from my basement, working remotely today. Whitney, do we go through? I submitted a PowerPoint presentation. Can we put that up? Thank you so much. Thank you to the committee again for allowing me to present today. Next slide. So the ASAP station overview has previously been presented, has been in 4 phases. There's been a little movement of individual stations between those phases, but it's exciting to say that the first phase of the ASAP program has been funded recently with some grants, including 2 on the Blue Line, Montrose in California, Austin on the Green, State and Lake in the Loop, and the 4 RPM phase 1 projects that Jeff so eloquently discussed earlier in the presentation. Phase 2, we are trying to get funded with the Racine entrance to the Congress branch of the Blue Line, as well as funding recently for Belmont and the Irving Park stations also on the Blue Line. Next slide, please. So the ASAP phase 1, this slide here shows a presentation, a schedule of the work that we're going to be doing in the near future. Racine Station is going to our February board for award, with the construction happening middle of 2023, with the station being open with fully accessible by the end of 2025. The Austin Green Line Station, we are about to go out to bid, and our anticipation construction schedule is between 2023 and complete at the end of 2024. The California station is currently under design, and we are at our first second major milestone for design, and we're expecting that design, the construction, to begin mid-2024 and be done mid-2025. The Montrose Blue Line Station, we're currently in negotiations for procurement. We're expecting that work to begin Q1 of 2025 and the work to be done middle Q2 of 2026. State and Lake Station, we're working with the city through the design, and we're expecting that work to begin 2024. The stations that are ready for construction, as I previously discussed, is the Racine Station, which will be a complete reconstruction and modernization with a compliant entrance at the Racine entrance. It will be going to board award in February. The Lake Austin Station is currently going to be out to bid early next year, as previously stated. Again, fully compliant upon completion. Next slide, please. So phase 2 is well underway. CTA recently received $118 million for the ACAP grants, which will go towards Irving Park on the Blue Line on the O'Hare branch, Belmont Blue on the O'Hare branch, as well as Pulaski on the Congress branch. We've also received federal formula funds to fund the design for 2 stations of Lake Oak Park and Lake Ridgeland stations. We're currently also CTA is applying for a mega grant application for additional stations at Cicero and Austin on the Congress stations. And a lot of these grants have been awarded to CTA with assistance from the ADA committee. We want to thank you for your encouragement and help with that. Thank you. And with that, that wraps up my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, well, I'll keep it open for a couple more seconds, see if there's any more questions.
Of course.
Okay, looks like none at the moment, but thank you so much, Stephen, for your PowerPoint presentation, for going over the updates with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy New Year. Okay, and then the next presentation that we have is ridership updates, which is going to be presented by Scott Wainwright, Director of Ridership Analysis and Reporting. It's all yours, Scott. Thank you.
Sure, thanks. Good afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and share screen if I can. Is that okay? Do it that way. Okay, is my screen showing?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. Yeah, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Scott Wainwright, Director of Ridership Analysis and Reporting in the Planning Department. I'm at the 567 West Lake office today. I'm a middle-aged white male, short gray hair, short gray beard, green eyes, white button dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up and ready to work. So with that, I'll go ahead and this is my first time presenting to the group here. So ridership has been a pretty major focal point since the pandemic, and so I'm gonna try to kind of start from the beginning of the pandemic with you all. I want to give some updates on basically what's going on with CTA ridership as a whole, and then there's going to be some focal points on the fare products that are ADA sort of related, such as the free disabled circuit breaker card, the disabled veterans card, the reduced disabled, and the reduced paratransit cards. So we'll look at those, and then we're also going to look at some external factors, some things outside of CTA ridership that are perhaps similar to us or impact us directly. So with that, I'll go ahead. So first slide we're looking at here is our average weekday ridership trends. We were averaging 1.4 million rides per average weekday before the pandemic started. That first month of the pandemic, we fell all the way down to close to 300,000 rides, or about 23% of normal. We reached a post-pandemic high of 897,000 in September of 2022, and have dropped back just a little bit with seasonal declines, and we averaged 815,000 this past November. Rail ridership had fallen much more so than bus ridership did. That's the darker blue bar here. It was only about 12% of normal, with bus being at about 30% of normal early on in the pandemic. At this point in November, and I'm talking about November ridership because those are the most recent official results that we have at this point. So as of November, rail ridership is at 50% of 2019, and bus was at 61% of 2019. Where are we heading? Where do we think we're heading? Nobody knows exactly. We've never really had to emerge from a pandemic before, so no one really knows how this is going to play out exactly. But the way things are going and trending, this is kind of basically what we think. So we are expecting, at the time of our budget forecast, we're expecting about 241 million rides in 2022, which for the year would have been 53% of 2019 levels. And over the next 3 years, we expect to be adding about 20 million rides each year, bringing us up to roughly 67% of 2019 levels for the year 2025. In terms of active cards, there's a couple of different ways we can look at ridership. One is in the rides taken. Another one is to look at the number of customers that we have, the distinct number of customers that we have using our system. And I mentioned the percentages that our ridership is at. We're just under 60% in terms of the ridership, which is this darker blue line here on the bottom. But the active cards reached 80% this past fall. So we can look at this a couple of ways. One way to describe what's going on with our ridership is we're missing about 20% of our customers. Half of the ridership loss is due to these customers who just never returned to the system. And the other half of the ridership loss can be explained by people who did return to the system, but are simply riding less often. Here we're looking at total auto trips in the city of Chicago. So, are they doing better or worse than what CTA is doing, right? Is this normal to be at 60% or so of pre-pandemic levels? And looking at auto trips only, that answer is no. The auto trips actually returned to pre-pandemic levels in the middle of 2021 and exceeded pre-pandemic levels a bit during 2021. They have stayed relatively constant and seen maybe a small decline over these past few months, possibly related to the higher gas prices that we have seen. Working from home is a big part of what's going on with CTA ridership. And so looking at that trend specifically, we can see that pre-pandemic, about 5% of all workers were working from home. That number reached about 35% in the very early days of the pandemic. It has slowly declined over the last 2.5 or 3 years, or however long it's been now. It dropped to a new low this past fall at about 16% and stayed pretty stable there once we got to that point in September, and stayed pretty level all throughout the fall. So it looks like maybe we've reached a new level, at least for now. Maybe we'll see something different happen in the springtime, but we appear to have leveled off a little bit in the work from home trends. This is a comparison of CTA's rail rush hour ridership with office occupancy. There is a company called Castle Systems who manages a large number of office buildings in Chicago and throughout the country. And they can count the number of taps in their office buildings. That's people coming in and out, leaving for security purposes. So it's a good way to estimate what office occupancy is. They estimated that office occupancy dropped to 20% of normal levels in 2020, and our CTA rail rush hour ridership was similarly low at 14% at that time. More recently, just this past November of 2022, office occupancy was estimated at 48%, and CTA rail rush hour ridership was at 46%. So it seems that our rail rush hour ridership is very much tied to office occupancy. This is a chart of TNP fares, otherwise known as the Uber and trips, otherwise known as Uber and Lyft. So what we see from them is that they had a similar drop off as to what we did early on in the pandemic, and they have been slowly returning rides just as we have. And they are currently at 67% of 2019 levels. So about 10 points higher than where CTA is at 57%. And the other thing that's very interesting with them is that they have, we have reduced our fares, but the Ubers and Lyfts have drastically increased their fares. They had an average fare of about $11 pre-pandemic, and they maintained that average fare for a good portion of the pandemic until about the middle point or early point of 2021, when they drastically increased fares by 67%. Their average fare now, as of December or November of 2022, was $18. So their fares have gone from $11 on average to $18 on average. Now, wanted to look at our ADA fare product, related fare product rides. As I mentioned, we have these 4 fare products: the free circuit breaker disabled, the free disabled veterans, the reduced disabled, and the reduced paratransit. Between those 4 fare products, for January through November of this year, there were 10 million ADA related rides on the bus system. That was about 8% of all bus ridership. There were another 3 million ADA related rides on the rail system, which is about 3% of all rail ridership. So for the year of 2022, we can expect about 14 million total annual ADA rides, and that will be about 6% of all CTA system ridership. Looking at the individual fare products that I mentioned, again, we have the free circuit breaker disabled, the free disabled veterans, reduced disabled, and reduced paratransit. I mentioned we had about 13 million rides through November of 2022. 11.7 million of those rides were on the free circuit breaker disabled. So about 90% of all of the ADA related rides were on free circuit breaker disabled fare product. The other 3 were similar in size, between 300 and 500,000 over those first 11 months. In terms of 2019 retention rates, each of the 4 fare products are pretty similar and are near the system level, but below, roughly around the 50% level. The free disabled veterans product is the lowest one at 38%. The distribution by day of week, I thought that would be interesting to talk about a little bit. On the top, we have the distribution by all rides, and on the bottom, we have the distribution for ADA rides. And what we see is that Tuesday through Thursday of the week is the highest. They are the highest days for all rides, somewhere between 900 and 920,000 rides per average weekday. This is for October. And then we see that Mondays and Fridays are significantly less. Monday being the real standout, it's down about 100,000 or 10% from Tuesday through Thursday. And we attribute this to the fact that most people who are working from home or only coming to the office for a couple days a week generally choose not to work in the office on Mondays and Fridays. The ADA rides are a little bit more evenly dispersed across the weekdays, averaging around 43,000 each day. Friday is the least busy day at 41,000, but really that's pretty similar to the other 4 days of the week. We do not see that Monday has a significantly lower number than the other weekdays like they do for all rides. which somewhat suggests that the ADA rides maybe have a lower share of work purpose trips and are less likely to be working from home or be impacted by working from home. Wanted to look a little bit at the time of day behaviors and trends. On the top, we have all rides, and on the bottom, we have ADA rides. Going from left to right, we see the ridership by hour. And for the all rides, we notice that there's a distinct AM and PM peak, where these are work purpose trips, sort of dominate what happens during the day. So there's increased ridership in the AM and PM peaks for the whole system. For ADA rides, it's a very different profile, sort of a one hump camel, so to speak, with ridership slowly building throughout the day and basically having its peak point all throughout the midday and then slowly declining the rest of the day. Some interesting points here that I wanted to share as well is that for all rides, when we compare versus 2019 pre-pandemic, the AM rush is missing the most number of rides. It is down 50%, while all rides are down only 44%. For ADA rides, it's different. The late night and overnight hours between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. are down by 57%, while the rest of the day is down by 50%.
And hello, Scott.
Yes.
I'm sorry, this is Whitney. I don't mean to interrupt. Because of our abbreviated schedule for today, I just wanted to give you a heads up. If in the next 5 minutes, I just want to ensure that we have enough time for questions after the presentation. Okay, so thank you. Just wanted.
Okay, I can wrap up pretty quickly here. So, did want to show that the ADA rides. These are 2019 retention rates for both all system rides and ADA related rides. And we see two very distinct things going on here. As I mentioned, the system rides have taken a big loss early on in the pandemic at 30% early on, and then recovering to 60% of normal. The ADA related rides did not see that level of decrease at the onset of the pandemic. We're at about 58 to 59% of normal in the early days, but have since actually declined over the last 2 years, while the system rides have increased. So just in the last year, the ADA rides are down roughly 10% year over year. Both the system rides and ADA rides saw drops during the Omicron surge last year. The system basically recovered and added and reached new pandemic highs, post-pandemic highs, while ADA rides never really seemed to recover from that. Looking at the individual fare products, ADA-related fare products, all four fare products were ahead of the system early on in the pandemic, and now all four fare products are behind the system in their recovery. And then I think I can just move through this pretty quickly. I'll skip the descriptions of what's in these slides, but essentially what we're seeing is that Southside rides for all rides are now, very early in the pandemic, the Southside was had higher retention rates than the rest of the system. They are now lagging the rest of the system in terms of retention rates. The other areas of the city have seen more recovery. And so now the Southside routes are lagging. And that's even more true for ADA rides, where they are declining across the system, but even more so on the Southside, which is where a large portion of the ADA rides are. So that's true of bus and for rail. And then just wanted to show this map here of auto trips going on in the city. You'll see that auto trips compared to pre-pandemic, basically these blue colors here show decline. The green shows increases. So since pre-pandemic, we are seeing that the south and west sides actually have fewer auto trips compared to pre-pandemic, while the rest of the city has increased auto trips. So I know we looked at that chart earlier that showed that they had basically returned to pre-pandemic levels overall for the city. That's true, but on the south and west sides, that seems to be less true. And that whatever might be happening there in those parts of the city may also be impacting our ridership in those areas, both our regular ridership and our ADA related ridership. So with that, I will stop there.
Thank you so much, Scott, for your presentation. I know that I myself have a question on to the
Oh, I'm sorry, you're breaking up on me.
other
Miss-
norms that they.
Whitney, you're breaking up on me. I didn't hear what you said.
Yes, I just wanted to, before I launch into my question, I just want to open it up to the rest of, to the members to see if they had any other questions or concerns that they wanted to direct to Scott. So I'll take a few moments to see if any questions come in.
Scott, this is Michael Kaiser, and I'm interested in the reduction in ADA rides on the south side. Do you have any explanation for that? Do you know why that's happening?
I don't have an explanation. As I said, I mean, some of all the south side ridership has been recovering at a slower rate. But yet South Side ADA rides are decreasing. And, I would hazard a guess is to say that it might be related to some of the safety issues and concerns out there, crime issues, and couple that with, some of our known service reliability issues that we've had in the last year might be contributing. But at the same time, we've also seen that these auto trips are down in those areas as well. So it's hard to point that it would just be our service, and that maybe it could be related to the crime issues more so than anything else. That's only a guess. I really can't point to anything saying anything definitive on that, but that's just my guess. And I would say that maybe the best evidence for that is that the overnight rides are seeing the largest decrease, and that's the time when maybe crimes concerns are at a peak, and our service is also at its lowest frequency levels. So people are very vulnerable at those times, or can feel very vulnerable at those times. And so maybe that's part of what's driving this.
I suppose another possibility, as I think about it, is the loss of employment, and whether that might be affecting the fact that people they aren't able to go to employment because their jobs have been eliminated.
Jobs eliminated, or potentially job shifts, right? They might be in different places now. The downtown oriented service jobs, I don't think are what they used to be. Yeah. So even if office occupancy is one thing, then I also don't think that, that the support service jobs, retail jobs, et cetera, have come back into those areas either. So that is a possibility. I do agree.
Thank you, Scott.
Yes, sir.
Apologies. Thank you, Scott. And I have one question, and then after that, unless there's another question that can replace mine, but for the sake of time, I think we're going to take in one more question before we move on. So in case anyone else has a question they'd like to ask Scott, I'll go ahead with mine. Okay, so it's kind of a brief question maybe, but I was just wondering if if compare it to other mass transit systems, do you see kind of a similar rate of retention?
Yes, okay. It's pretty similar. I think LA and New York are slightly ahead of us at this point. And I do attribute that to that, you know, Chicago is kind of unique in that we had a higher share of choice riders, people who had the means to drive but chose to take transit because our system is so great here. New York is very hard to get around without with a car, so they're kind of transit captive in that sense. And then LA has more low income people who are more transit captive, and so their retention rates are slightly ahead of ours, but no transit agency in the United States has returned to pre-pandemic levels or really anything close.
Mm. Well, thank you, Scott, so much for this very thorough and detailed, informative presentation. We all really appreciate you coming and talking to us today and answering our questions. We will move on to our next presentation. I do want to point out that one of our advisory members, Howard Wilson, has joined. And so I want to make sure that that gets marked in our records that he has joined the meeting. And I'll also like to just remind our next presenters that because of our abbreviated schedule for today, if you can please keep your presentation between 10-15 minutes, just so that we can also ensure that we can ask questions afterwards and fit everybody in. But thank you so much, Scott. And our next presentation is Elevator and Communications Recap, which is going to be presented by Leonardo Romano, General Manager in Facilities Maintenance, as well as Anthony Capoletta, General Manager of Customer Information. And the floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you, Whitney. Good afternoon to the committee members and all. My name is Leonard Romano. I also go by Lenny, which is what people know me here as, Lenny Romano. Today, I'm here to provide to the committee the process of how information is relayed to folks that control our website for out-of-service elevators, and how quickly they get changed, and as to why some elevators' statuses stay in the TBD, which to be determined status, rather than a specific date. So to begin, elevator defects are categorized in three ways, which is short-term, long-term, and planned outages. Short-term defects are elevators that are returned back to service within 24 hours. Long-term defects are considered elevators that are going to be out of service greater than 24 hours. And then we have planned outages that are due to any planned maintenance or improvements. These typically follow with a bulletin that's created and posted for customer notification in advance of the planned shutdowns. So now I'll go into the actual process itself. When an elevator defect presents itself, our customer service representatives will notify the control center, who then in turn notifies our elevator contractor for dispatch purposes. We have mechanics on the property 24/7, and typically they can arrive to the location within 1 to 2 hours of being notified, as well as being dependent on where they're traveling from within the CTA system. At this point, by now, the elevator now has a work order that has been generated, and notification on the website has now been updated to reflect the outages, with an ETA is listed as to be determined. Once a mechanic is there and on site and troubleshoots the elevator outage and knows if or whether the elevator can be returned back to service within that 24-hour period, no changes are made to the website status or estimated completion date, other than when it's removed off the website. Once the elevator is repaired and placed back into service, notification from the mechanic is then sent back to the control center, who is then made aware that the elevator is in service and will meter that elevator back up, which in turn removes it from the website as being out of service. In the event that an elevator is going to be out of service greater than 24 hours, and we know if and when parts are available, we will provide an estimated completion date at that point. This sometimes can take 48 to 72 hours, or even sometimes greater, as the CTA elevator contractor and its vendors work on providing the CTA with parts lead times, as well as estimated shipping dates. There's also daily communication made with the control center staff regarding status updates from the facilities maintenance group. We categorize that status update into 7 typical categories that are reasons of why elevators that are out of service and why, and the information is then also posted on the CTA website. Those categories are mechanical defects, electrical defects, elevator cab structural defects, exterior structural defects, door defects, vandalism defects, and then, of course, planned maintenance. Any elevator that will be out of service greater than that 24-hour period will have any of these updates attributed to why that elevator is out of service, and then an estimated completion date will be provided. Other ways on how we communicate to our customers is made at the stations themselves. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tony Copoletta, General Manager of Customer Information, who could then speak on that.
Hi. Yes, my name is Tony Copoletta. That's Coppolletta. I am, I guess, going on what other people have said, late Gen X, pre-millennial, I don't know. Blue shirt, button up, gray beard, and hair that I am not yet willing to admit is gone gray. But anyway, yeah, I'm the General Manager of Customer Information at CTA. I've been with the agency for about 15 years, and part of what I do includes getting information about the status of elevators out to people through various mechanisms. And what we've tried to do is take a bit of a kitchen sink approach. We know that not everyone likes to receive information in the same way, and some people may find one way more convenient than others. So we try to do as much as we can to get elevator status information out to as many people as possible in whatever ways people might be willing to receive that information, whether they do that in advance or hopefully, even if they don't, are still able to find that information as they travel when something changes. Of course, as anyone who uses elevators knows, sometimes an outage, which obviously is a huge inconvenience, if not a barrier to access at a station, you know, can happen at any time. It could be, you know, something, you know, went wrong with the elevator. It could be somebody, you know, vandalized a door or something like that. And so any of those things can play in. So what we do is we try to make this information as readily and as widely available as possible. And so as Lenny said, that information gets to the control center where they open up a work ticket, and that is what creates you know, a response to an elevator going down. The people in the control center also update one of our longest standing communications mechanisms for elevator outages, and that is the elevator status hotline. You can call 888-YOUR-CTA and follow the prompts to reach the elevator status hotline. And that is updated, I believe, at least hourly by the control center staff with the latest outages or resumptions that occur. So you can get a quick snapshot by audio, by phone, on a toll-free number at that. One of the later ways that we've added to that is also that the station staff will update dry erase boards that are posted at main entrances to every station. And some auxiliary entrances, but not all, because sometimes it's just, you know, basically fenced off stairs and there isn't room for the board. And you wouldn't be using an elevator at that point as well. But the elevator status board gets updated based on that information from the control center about what's up and what's down at every station system-wide on a regular basis. And then the same information is also given to our communications coordinators, and they are part of the control center group, and they add alerts to the website for any unplanned events, and that includes bus reroutes, that includes delays to rail service. We had a disruption on the Red Line just a little while ago due to a track condition that's been recently resolved. And, you know, it's the same people who update that 24/7 as elevator information is reported back to the control center about outages and such. And so the communications coordinators will post an alert about an elevator being down. They attach some information to that, like what line the station is on, what specific station it's in. And that immediately becomes available on the website. Any apps that pull for alerts from our system, and that's up to app developers generally, have the potential to include elevator status information because that's in the alerts feed, just like any other delay that we publish. And then it also goes out through a service that we have, a subscription service called CTA Updates. So if you've signed up through CTA updates, and if you haven't and depend on elevators, I encourage you to. You can go to transitchicago.com/updates and sign up there to get an email or a text message anytime an elevator goes up or down on the system. And again, that information is reported around the clock. So that's something that you can have, sent to you if you so choose. Otherwise, when they post that alert, it immediately appears on the front page of our website, which is mobile friendly and accessible in the sense that, that information is posted in text, so someone who relies on a screen reader can hear it. And it gets integrated into pages about alerts, pages about each route, and pages that are specific to information about each station. So there are many, many different places that it appears all at once when they publish that. And so again, to summarize, once that elevator information is reported, it goes in the elevator status hotline. It goes on the dry erase boards within a certain period of time of the outage occurring. It appears on our website. It appears in apps. It gets sent out by text and email. Oh, and I forgot to mention certain digital screens that have the room to show it. Generally, our digital advertising screens will also occasionally give a list of stations that have an elevator issue, so you know to go and check that out if that's a station of concern to you. So I think that's the whole story. I apologize if that was a lot of information all at once, but we're trying to do a lot of things all at once. So that's kind of how it comes out.
Thank you so much, Lenny and Tony, for going over everything. And thank you so much for so thoroughly explaining everything for us. I would like to open it up to any members if they have any questions that they would like to ask at this time. Okay. Once again, thank you both for taking the time today and for talking to us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, next on our agenda, and once again, I want to thank everybody for bearing with us. We're trying to get through a lot today before we end early at 3. So thank you all for just being patient with us as we go through everything. Our next presentation is about the Red Line Extension, RLE, which is going to be presented by Leah Mooney, the Director of Strategic Planning and Policy, along with Jessica Maxey Faulkner.
Hey, Whitney. This is Sonali Tandon, Senior Manager for Strategic Planning Rail, and I'll be giving the presentation today. And I have a deck to share, so give me a minute here. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So I am a Gen X. I have medium black hair, and I'm wearing a black top, which I don't think is visible in the screen, but with gray jacket. I'm very excited to present today. And the slide that is currently being displayed is titled Red Line Extension, presentation, and features a graphic showing the route the Red Line train would travel from its current terminus to 95th Street, current terminus at 95th Street to 130th Street. And our team last presented an update on the Red Line Extension project in 2021. And we have made a lot of progress since then that I'm excited to share with you all today. This slide is titled Project Overview, and it features a map of the preferred alignment, the surrounding area, and a legend. And for those who were not here for the last update or may not be familiar with the project, it is a 5.6-mile rail extension of the Red Line from its current terminus at 95th Dan Ryan to 130th Street near Olcott Gardens. 4 new accessible stations are proposed at 103rd Street near Eggleston Avenue, 111th Street near Eggleston Avenue, Michigan Avenue near 116th Street, and 130th Street near Olcott Gardens. Elevated tracks are proposed from 95th Street to about 119th Street, and they will be ground level after that from 119th to 130th Street. Multimodal connections at each of the stations would include bus, bike, pedestrian, and park and ride facilities. And then a new train storage yard and shop facility is proposed at 120th Street, which expands the capacity for the entire Red Line. The slide that I'm currently displaying shows RLE benefits. The extension will provide transformational benefits to the far south side communities, the city, and the region. This slide features 5 columns of varying colors with headlines that highlight the benefits. And those benefits are equity, frequent rail service, connectivity, economic opportunity, and sustainability. The Red Line extension is a transportation equity project that will provide affordable rail service to historically underserved and predominantly African-American communities on the far south side. The far south side is an area where a higher proportion of residents live in poverty compared to the citywide average. Connection to the CTA system is essential for access to jobs, and people living in the project area have some of the longest commute times. The project would save up to 30 minutes of trip time from 130th station to the loop on transit. This is not only a huge quality of life change, but it would also bring more jobs within a reasonable commute. We expect that there will be a 46% increase in jobs available within a 1-hour commute. And connection to CTA rail network will improve mobility for transit-dependent residents in the area, where over 22% of the households lack access to automobile. Residents will also save money by switching their commute from driving to taking public transit, which can save up to $10,000 per year. The project is estimated to deliver economic benefits through construction and operations and maintenance once up and running. An estimated 2,500 new jobs will be available on average annually during construction, and 700 jobs on average annually after the project opening. The project will also help us meet our critical climate and sustainability goals. Moving on to the next slide, which presents the project schedule. The graphic on screen shows the milestones that we have completed last year and the upcoming schedule. We are in a time of unprecedented opportunity for this transit equity project. Over the last several years, CTA has accelerated project progress on the project and laid groundwork for significant federal dollars to come to Chicago. The project is seeking funding from a competitive federal program, which is called New Starts. This program funds major new rail lines and extensions across the country. We entered the project development phase of the New Starts in late 2020, and we are now completing the requirements to exit that successfully. This includes completing the environmental review process and 30% design in 2022. We also received transit TIF funding approval from City Council in December, which was very exciting and shows city commitment for this project. You may have heard that in the news. Approval of this funding is a significant milestone towards securing full funding for the project. And I'll be discussing this a little bit more on the next slide. And then as we move into the next phase of the New Starts process, which is called engineering, we'll be bringing on contractors on board to complete design and construct the project. We expect to receive full funding grant agreement from FTA in mid-2024, and then construction contract award following that. The construction is anticipated to start in 2025 and ready to deliver service in 2029, assuming that all the funding milestones are met. And all of this effort that has been made to advance the project has positioned us to take advantage of the funding level available in the bipartisan infrastructure law. So I'm moving on to the next slide, which explains the funding for the Red Line Extension project. It is a transformational $3.6 billion investment The New Starts program will provide a significant share of the funding, as I mentioned in the previous slide. CTA plans to request about 2.16 billion in New Starts funding, which is 60% of the project cost. And in order to secure that, we need local match. The recently approved transit TIF funding, which is dedicated to the Red Line Extension project, would fund an estimated 950 million of the non-New Starts funding. And transit TIFs are a special type of TIF district that can support significant transit investments. Other CTA sources that would go towards the non-New Starts funding match include CTA bonds, and then also a 30 million grant that we received from Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Program.
Sorry, can you repeat that again? Also 30 million grant. I didn't understand what you said after that.
Yeah, 30 million. We received 30 million grant from the Competitive Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Program. It's called CMAQ funding. This is a federal grant source that is distributed locally. And then together, these sources will support a strong application for the Red Line Extension project and pursue the significant amount of federal funding to make RLE a reality. So moving to the next slide, which is about accessibility at the 4 new stations. Accessibility provides greater inclusiveness, and RLE stations will include all accessibility features, which includes accessible entrances, doors, fare arrays, accessible routes from curbs to platforms, enhanced lighting as appropriate, audible announcements, and accessible employee facilities. There are also park and rides at all stations with designated accessible spaces proposed, and then kiss and ride at all stations, which could be used for paratransit drop-off. And we will be exploring other features related to wayfinding and directional signage as the design progresses. So I'm sharing the next slide, which is on transit supportive development plans. As part of the RLE project, CTA received a grant from FTA for transit-oriented development planning. And this plan is a comprehensive long-range master plan that's envisioned to be a guide for future developers in communities located within the RLE project area and on the far south side. This plan is being prepared in partnership with City's Department of Planning and Development and Cook County Land Bank Authority.
I'm sorry, Cook County what?
Cook County Land Bank Authority, CCLBA. We have done the market research and community outreach to develop a vision and goals that future developers can then build on. This shows the commitment of the city and signals confidence in the area for investors to facilitate this future development once the extension is built. This plan will create a community vision for redevelopment, identify potential funding sources and tools for future development, develop policy recommendations in collaboration with city agencies, and support a stronger ask for federal funding for RLE. So it'll be part of our funding application request.
Hi, Sonali, this is Whitney. I just want to briefly interrupt and say that because of our time constraint, I want to make sure that we leave enough time to go through the rest of your slides, but also any time at the end for additional questions. So if you could possibly please within the next 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, absolutely. I have just a couple more slides, so I'll be finishing soon.
Hey, thank you, Sonali.
Thank you. Thanks for the reminder. So this slide is showing a development concept for the Michigan Avenue Station area. It shows a thriving mixed-use shopping district with renovated historic buildings and new infill development, featuring commercial destinations, increased access to housing, and improved connections to all forms of transit. This is just a conceptual rendering showing the potential for development. So this is the last slide. It is titled Time is Now, as there has never been a better time to make the RLE project a reality and to bring this significant investment to the city of Chicago. This slide shows a picture of U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg with Mayor Lori Lightfoot and CTA President during a tour of the CTA Red Line 95th Street Dan Ryan Station. RLE is the equity investment that the far south side and city of Chicago need and deserve. And we are so pleased to have received the transitive funding approval. This project will improve mobility and expand economic opportunity across the city. And
expand what across the city?
Economic opportunity across the city. We know that the federal administration's focus on funding equity-focused projects and transit projects is favorable for RLE, and over the last few years, we have made the progress to make this project ready and are ready to take advantage of the federal funding that is available now. So with that, thank you so much, and I really appreciate your time, and take any questions now.
Thank you so much, Sonali. Thanks so much for your presentation. Does anybody have any questions they'll like to bring to the table? Okay, well, thank you again, Sonali, for taking the time and for joining us this afternoon and for going over the Red Line extension. This was really informative. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And it looks like the last major presentation that we have on the table is the annual CTA budget / capital construction plan by Michael Conley, the Chief Planning Officer.
Thank you, Whitney. Good afternoon, all. I'll be short. I'm pleased to share some details of the 2023 budget and try to answer your question about it. The budget holds the line on fares, no fare increase, while continuing to provide the highest level of service possible. The budget also reflects a steady increase in ridership, which Scott Wainwright referred to in his presentation earlier. Last fall, we reached 900,000 rides on a weekday, nearly 60% of our pre-pandemic ridership. It's one of the largest ridership recoveries of any U.S. transit agency, as Scott mentioned, and a continuing reflection of how public transit has remained an essential service for the last 2.5 years of the pandemic. The operating budget for next year totals $1.8 billion. It includes $390 million of federal funding to balance this upcoming 2023 budget. CTA has received just over $2.2 billion in federal funding, which will be nearly exhausted by 2025, but will easily make it through 2023 and 2024. There's no question we faced a number of challenges with the pandemic. None of them are unique to us. Indeed, every transit system across the US and across the North American continent is facing them. CTA has been acutely focused on addressing several of them. By far, the biggest challenge has been workforce shortages. Like nearly every business, we've seen the impacts of the Great Resignation, people leaving the workforce, along with marketplace competition for workers, especially for bus and train operators. When we don't have enough people to drive the buses and trains, we can't provide the level of service that we want to or that we schedule to. That can lead to longer than normal delays and inconsistent service at some times of the day. It's also led to some issues with our bus and our train trackers, which use a combination of both scheduled and real-time information. When our schedules are off, because we don't have enough workers to provide certain trips, the trackers are off, creating what some refer to as ghost buses or ghost trains. In August, President Dorval Carter announced Meeting the Moment, a multifaceted plan to strengthen our riders' experience. It includes 5 elements: more consistent and reliable service, safe rides throughout the system, clean facilities, modern amenities, dynamic customer engagement tools, and a strong CTA workforce. In the months that the plan has been in place, we've made some significant strides. We introduced new bus and rail schedules that reflect our current workforce availability. These new schedules aim to provide more consistent, more reliable service and reduce the variability in wait times to make the bus and train trackers more accurate. We've undertaken unprecedented efforts to recruit and hire new employees. CTA hosted or participated in a dozen in-person and virtual job fairs, some in conjunction with our unions. We also developed a program with Olive Harvey College to offer a free preparation course to assist bus operator candidates in obtaining their commercial learner's permit, which is a step they need to take to become a bus driver. We're also working on providing a safe and comfortable environment for our customers. We have a decades-long partnership with the Chicago Police Department, which provides law enforcement for the CTA system. This year, the Chicago Police Department has added more resources to their CTA patrols. CTA has also increased its security budget within our own agency from $15 million in 2019 to $41 million in 2023 for next year. That includes supplementing Chicago police officers with private contracted security guards and new K-9 teams. And in October, we signed a contract with the Chicago Department of Family and Support Services to provide outreach and support for riders who are unhoused, as well as those grappling with mental health and substance abuse. As we're working to address these current challenges, we're also keeping an eye on the future. We're addressing our growing $13 billion in state of good repair needs with a 5-year, $3.5 billion capital improvement program, or CIP. Among the many capital projects that we'll tackle in 2023, you've already heard some about. Our All Stations Accessibility Program, which Steve Masheri told you about. The Blue Line Forest Park Branch track and power improvements are the first phase of a comprehensive rebuild for that entire line. Refresh and Renew, which is an expanded and accelerated rail station improvement program. We're also adopting a Better Streets for Buses program with CDOT, the city's Department of Transportation, a comprehensive citywide plan for bus priority streets. We're also continuing the expansion of our electric bus fleet, part of our commitment to complete the electrification by the year 2040. We have invested $415 million in electric buses so far. The 23 through 27 capital improvements program also includes replacement buses and rail cars, rehabilitation efforts in both fleets, and continued work on the RPM project that you heard about from Jeff Wilson earlier today. We've also continued our focus on more regional cooperation and coordination among the service boards. We replaced the Metro Link-Up Pass with a new Regional Connect Pass, which extended the hours and lowered the price. We're also making changes to the PACE CTA products to streamline our offering. We're now offering a low-priced 30-day CTA and PACE Unlimited Rides Pass for $75. And in 2023, we'll continue to make adjustments to these pass products. We'll eliminate the separate CTA and PACE passes, and instead we'll have a $20 7-day CTA pass to be able to be used on PACE as well. We're also expanding the existing 1- and 3-day passes to include PACE riders. So that's a quick summary of the CTA's 2023 budget and our upcoming capital plan. Be glad to try to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Michael. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask at this moment? Okay. Thank you so much, Michael, for your presentation and for all the detail about what's happening. Thank you so much. And then, okay, and so it looks like we're done with the set of presentations that we had planned. Next, we're going to move over to the subcommittee reports. So we have a few subcommittees right now. We have the funding and advocacy and the safety and training and technology CTA subcommittees that are in need of chairs. So if you're interested in either a topic of advocacy or safety and training and technology and would like to start that off and be involved in that, please reach out to Irma. Please, share your interest with us. And the next subcommittee after that is the wayfinding subcommittee, where I'm chair. I do have a brief report I want to share with everybody. And let's see if that can come up real fast. Irma, do you have the report, or should I screen share my page?
I'm pulling it up.
Oh, thank you. And while that's being pulled up, I just want to say that although I am chair, I am actively, for those who are members of this committee, if you're interested in either of the committees, especially, the wayfinding subcommittee, please let me know directly about the wayfinding. I would love to get you involved. As I'll be stepping down in April, I'm actively looking for vice chairs and chairs who might be interested in taking the helm. So if you are interested, please let me know. So I'm just going to quickly go into our report. So last year in November, we looked at the we looked at the Western Brown Line, and we brought in a series of 3 user experience participants to kind of walk through the entire station and point out different barriers that that occurred for them. The participants that we looked at ranged in age and ranged in disability type, to help kind of give a broad idea of what might be lacking and what was noticed. So we can go to the next slide. And by the way, these are just little, what you see on here is our kind of excerpts from the bigger 3 file report that was created by the Wayfinding Subcommittee and submitted to the CTA. So just to give a quick overview, the user experience participants that we brought in were myself, Sharon and Delphine. All of us are part of the Wayfinding Subcommittee. We can go to the next slide. I also want to note that while we walked through the Western Brown Line, it was great because we were able to have CTA Vice President of Scheduling and Service Planning, Elsa Gutierrez, as well as Chief Planning Officer, Mike Connolly, which we just heard from, as well as the planning team lead for Transit Chicago Partners, Beth Long. So they were also accompanied us and were able to answer questions that we as we went through the station. On this slide is a map, overview map of the station with call outs of where exactly issues were noted and barriers were noted and called out. So this is part of the bigger report that was sent to the CTA. Can you go to the next slide? And then just to give a kind of abbreviated idea of how we looked at the barriers, according to WHO, the World Health Organization, disability refers to the interaction between individuals and a health condition and personal and environmental factors. So we actually looked at this from a 5-pronged kind of aspect. One is physical, which is the barriers in the environment pertaining to the material obstacles that prevent or limit or obstruct access to guests. So this is just an example of one of the physical barriers that were called out during the report, which is the number 49 Western bus stop and the outdoor furniture that made it difficult for users to get on and off the bus. We can go to the next slide. One of our recommendations was to relocate the street furniture and maintain a 60-inch minimum diameter turning space between bus stop and passenger boarding and alighting. And so just to give a heads up, the rest of the presentation is going to just kind of briefly look like this. It's going to show what the barrier was and then what our recommendation was, to just give you kind of an idea of how the bigger, meatier presentation and files were sent over to the CTA. Next slide, please. And so the next barrier to access was information, which according to the WHO is barriers created by the display of content or knowledge. And so once again, this is for the north entrance. The picture that we see over to the side is a picture of the Western Brown Line going into the train station of the north entrance. The concern was there's only one set of power doors in the whole facility, and there's not a lot of signage directing where that accessible door is located. So the questions, the concerns in question are about that specifically. And we go to the next slide. And then the recommendation was provide an informational sign directing to the nearest accessible entrance, as well as a recommendation of providing an automatic door opener. Some of the recommendations are above and beyond the ADA, but we wanted to make sure that they were all noted, as well as possible recommendations that go outside of the requirements. It's just to give a kind of a bit of a wiggle room of what the recommendations to fix the solutions could look like. We go to the next slide. And then the next barrier to access was communications, barriers created by digital recorded announcements, live announcements, and human condition. So the pictures are of the interior of the Western Brown Line, and the concern in question was because of all the entry points leading into the area, there was a lot of confusion of basically which door really led to where, and just trying to gain some placement in the station as a whole. We can go to the next slide. And so I'm not going to read all the recommendations, but there were quite a number of recommendations really concerning towards wayfinding of what could be provided to help users, especially those who are unfamiliar with the station and unfamiliar with the location, of what might be helpful to help users navigate themselves a little bit easier within the station itself. Next slide, please. The next barrier to access is attitudinal, which we did not come across during the time of the survey, but attitudinal is really about the interaction between staff and direct communication information. So no attitudinal barriers were noted during the survey. And then the last barrier to access that was that we noted, next slide, please, was policy. So barriers created by rules, laws, procedures, and actions adopted, conformed to, or considered. And so for the Western Blue Line, that policy had to do with benches. There was only one bench located on the exterior of the station. And it seemed like there was more of a policy decision of why there weren't more benches throughout the facility. And so over to the side, you'll see a picture of one of the benches, as well as where a bench is not, as well as questions and concerns that came in from the participants during the time of the survey. And I do believe that is the last slide. So with the and the recommendation was to provide at least one additional bench with standards that fit to the ADA. And so, so the wayfinding subcommittee completed this in, I believe, October, submitted the report in November. And we are very pleased with just how the survey went along. And we were also really happy with how CTA staff met and helped us and answered our questions throughout. And I want to throw out that the next wayfinding subcommittee will be more than likely in February. It is to be determined at the moment. But if if any member is interested in joining the wayfinding subcommittee, would like to learn more about the user barrier survey, and would like to see the full 3 file documents that went into the user barrier survey, please reach out to me or Irma. I would certainly love to have you all a part of the wayfinding subcommittee. So that is the end of the subcommittee report. Next, and I do apologize, I'm talking fast. We are on a little bit of a time crunch, but the next list that we have, next item we have on the list is the facilitators report, which is going to be presented by Irma Gomez, Manager of ADA Compliance Programs.
Thank you, Whitney. And I do have just 2 quick announcements. One being that we have launched the tactile bus stop sign survey to get feedback from users about the signs and their experiences. The link is now, I'll be putting it on the chat, but it's also online on the CTA website at transitchicago.com/accessibility. Under the feedback section, and it is a quick 2 to 3 minute survey. We did set a deadline for February 17th, and the survey is available in both English and Spanish. And the next announcement revolves around the 7000 series. And the 7000 series have recently entered revenue as of, or revenue service as of the first of this month. And CTA now has 40 cars on our property. CTA will be receiving 10 cars per month for 40 months. And all incoming cars for the next 8 to 10 months will be sent to the Blue Line. 28 cars are assigned to the Blue Line and 12 cars are still in Skokie going through incoming inspections. Transit ops are training for this train car series, and that started and it's currently ongoing as well. So that's all I have for my facilitators report.
Thank you so much, Irma. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing that with all of us. And then it looks like we're going over to old business. I want to open it up to the committee to ask if there's any old business that they would like to discuss at the moment.
Just as a follow-up to a question that was raised at, I think,
Sorry,
the
who's
last meeting.
speaking? I
This
need
is
to know who's speaking.
Mike Connolly from CTA. A question that was raised by one of the committee members at the last meeting was, are we going ahead with changing the berthing of the rail cars at all of the stations? And just as a follow-up, yes, CTA is still considering that. We're in the process of developing a training program for our operators to train them how to do that. And then the final decisions will be made, and we'll keep the committee informed as we do that. We'll need to roll out some communications with our communications. Tony Capoletta, who was on the call earlier talking about customer communications, will be in charge of that. But we'll roll that out to let all our customers know as well. But it's in process, but it's not completed, and I don't expect to see it within the next 60 days or 100 days. It's a little ways off yet.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you so much for that update. And if we don't have any old business, I'd like to open it up to the committee for new business. Is there any particular topic or issues that you want to add to the April meeting agenda? Okay, it looks like no new business. Okay, and then now we're going to go into the adjournment of our meeting. So I want to remind everyone that our next meeting is on Monday, April 10th, 2023. There were, and I also want to note that there were modifications for the last October meeting from Monday 9th to Tuesday, the 10th, due to Indigenous Peoples Day. So I want to make sure that both were noted. And I want to remind everyone for members to stay on after through, because we do have the ethics training, and also want to let people know that we are not sure at the moment what the format will be for our next meeting, if it's going to be virtual or if it's going to be in person or hybrid. So please stand by for that information as it goes through development. And so for adjournment, does anybody like to move?
Robertson, so moved.
Thank you so much, Robertson. Thank you so much, Nicholas Robertson. And do we have a second?
This is Mary. I'll second it. I can't imagine anybody not wanting to.
Thank you, Mary. I was like, everyone loves this meeting. I
Thought it was going to be like House of Representatives this past week for a second.
Okay, thank you, Mary, for a second. So we have Nicholas Robertson, who motions to move, and Mary Aberson seconds. And let's see, the time is, and I do apologize, almost missed the most important part. Is everyone in favor? Please say aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. Any opposed or abstain? Nope, wonderful. Okay, thank you so much. The time is, it looks like it's 3:13. And I want to thank all the presenters again for coming out, for presenting today, and for working through our abbreviated schedule. We appreciate all the information that we took in today. So thank you all, and I look forward to seeing everyone in April.